just like your mother's.
Welcome back to Recap IT. Today we are going to recap a 2019 thriller horror movie titled The Other Lamb. A girl born into an all-female cult led by a man in their compound begins to question his teachings and her own reality. Selah is an adolescent girl who lives in a cult led by the Messianic Shepherd, the sex-only male member. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to this channel. Now without wasting any further time, let's begin, shall we? They tend sheep and dwell in abandoned buildings in the woods. The ladies are separated into two groups, younger sisters, who are dressed in blue, and older wives, who are clad in red. The shepherd selects one of his wives each day and takes her to his room. The girls say their prayers to the shepherd and thank him for everything before going to bed. The shepherd and all the women are sitting in their religious location the next morning. The shepherd describes how he rescued them from the outer world, provided shelter and security, and bestowed daughters upon them. He sacrifices a lamb and blesses everyone after speaking about himself. All of the women look to him as a savior and pray for him. He's a lucky man. Selah has attracted the attention of the shepherd, who compliments her on her attractiveness. Selah, on the other hand, is curious about her mother, who died shortly after giving birth to her. The shepherd, on the other hand, ignores her query and is only interested in Selah. One of the newlywed wives, Eloise, expresses her happiness at being married to the shepherd. Selah, on the other hand, is envious of her and begins to tease her. Tamar, a friend of hers, tries to stop her. They do, however, get into a fight. As a result, Tamar's mother orders Selah to deliver the leftovers to the hut, which is home to two cursed spouses. They are separated from the rest of the flock because the shepherd considers them impure. Selah encounters one of the cursed wives, Sarah, who warns her about the shepherd. Selah, on the other hand, disregards her warning because she thinks her dirty. Selah is given the job of keeping an eye on the flock of sheep the next day. She had her first period there, and she is terrified because periods are considered impure within the group. In her terror, she even kills a sheep. She doesn't tell anyone about her periods after she returns home. Instead, she claims she fell asleep during a wild dog attack on the flock, which resulted in the death of a sheep. She is forgiven by the shepherd, and she is welcomed back into the flock. A police officer enters the next day and tells the shepherd to go or he would arrest everyone. As a result, the shepherd gathers everyone in their church and informs them that they must flee or the outside world would destroy them. They will soon find a new home, the shepherd promises them. As a result, everyone begins to rejoice and dance joyfully. Selah, on the other hand, is unhappy since she does not want to leave the place. The shepherd promises her that, just like before, they will find a new home. The next day, everyone packs their belongings and joins the shepherd on his adventure into the unknown. Selah admires the shepherd and considers him to be their protector, therefore she trusts all he says. Sarah has also accompanied the flock on their trek. They arrive to an abandoned house after a long journey. The shepherd, on the other hand, refuses to set up camp inside and invites everyone to spend the night outside. Selah gets her period again the next morning. This time, though, her sisters notice her and inform the shepherd. Because periods are considered impure, Selah is urged to stay with Sarah until her periods are over, away from the rest of the world. Sarah tells her that she knew her mother and that they were the first to be graced by the shepherd. She also informs her that Selah's mother died from an infection that was left untreated, not from childbirth. Sarah is regarded as a broken object by the shepherd since she refuses to obey his orders and constantly questions him. Selah imagines herself in a car with the shepherd and her mother as they continue their trip to discover their paradise. She fantasizes about the life she may have had if she had been born into a normal household. Selah is beginning to lose faith in the shepherd and is beginning to have doubts about him. But she doesn't tell anyone else about her sentiments because she's afraid they'll think she's impure like Sarah. Selah rejoins the flock once her periods have stopped. They spend days searching for their new paradise. However, one of their flock's women is pregnant and preparing to give birth. She is able to give birth, but she succumbs to the effects of childbirth. Sarah holds the shepherd responsible for her death, as do the elder wives. Selah is convinced that the shepherd is unconcerned about them and has lost all faith in him. Sarah decides to go her own way while the flock continues their journey. When Selah invites her to accompany them, Sarah discloses that the baby the lady had earlier is a boy, and that the shepherd had abandoned him to die. This is why there are no males in the flock because the shepherd kills them all. Selah and her flock have been traveling for days and have yet to find the paradise promised by the shepherd. Tamar advises them to take the opposite route. However, as the shepherd loses patience, he begins to beat his daughter. The others had no choice but to follow the shepherd into the unknown, despite their fears. The flock has finally arrived at their new home, which the shepherd refers to as Eden, after going through so much. On the first day, the shepherd baptizes the sisters and wives to welcome them into their new home. The spouses, on the other hand, will be baptized the next day. The shepherd invites Selah into his tent at night and gets intimate with her. When the sisters wake up in the morning, they discover that the elder wives have vanished. They race to the lake only to discover that the shepherd has drowned all of the older wives and plans to take the sisters as his next brides, beginning with Selah. Selah, on the other hand, has discovered the shepherd's true identity and has rejected his proposal. She doesn't want to be his wife anymore, and she also doesn't want his grace. When the police officers arrive near a lake, they discover a number of dead women lying still. They also come across the shepherd's body high on the mountain. Selah and her sisters appear to have killed the shepherd after learning that he had murdered their mothers. The sisters will now begin a new life on their own terms, with the ability to choose what they want to do with their lives. And this is where the movie comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, until next time.